to BSW Transfer Info session in partnership with Kellogg Community College and the WMU School of Social Work. We're glad that you could join us or watch this recording. I'd like to start all of our events with just an acknowledgement about land, labor, and life. So if you'll join me in honoring those who've gone before. I'd like to recognize that Western Michigan University is located on lands historically occupied by the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations. Please take a moment to acknowledge and honor this ancestral land of the Three Fires Confederacy, the sacred lands of all Indigenous peoples and their continued presence. The United States would not exist but for the free enslaved labor of Black people. Black lives, knowledge, and skills have been stolen due to violence and white supremacy. Okay, thank you for joining us with that acknowledgement. I think it's important to talk about where we come from. So I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Jennifer Harrison, who is the interim director at WMU School of Social Work. She'll share a little bit about herself and about WMU, and then we'll introduce the rest of the team here tonight.
Great, thanks so much, Jennifer. So as Jennifer mentioned, I'm also a Jennifer, so my name is Jennifer Harrison, and I'm so proud to be a social worker and an associate professor and the interim director at Western Michigan University School of Social Work. So I've had the privilege and opportunity in my social work career to work in a really broad variety of settings and with populations. So I've had the opportunity to work in behavioral health settings with individuals with mental health and substance use disorder needs, to work in school settings with children with special education needs, primary healthcare settings, and integrated behavioral and physical healthcare settings in emergency departments and inpatient medical surgical hospitals, as well as psychiatric hospitals, and in community mental health settings. And so all of that, I'm really proud to say, is still under the rubric of being a social worker and having the opportunity to practice my skills with individuals, families, and groups, as well as my skills at impacting policies, communities, and entire societies. So that's part of the what I feel like social work brings to our program, and social work brings to students who are interested in having an impact in not only the individual level, but also in the policy level simultaneously. So I'm really glad that all of you are available to either be here with us remotely today or to listen to this recorded session. And hopefully, if you have an interest in the social work profession and in the human services field, as well as advancing your career in education in social work, that you would consider Western Michigan University as one of the options where you might consider attending for a 4-year or even a graduate program. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Harrison. Okay, so for those of you who are considering transferring someday, maybe soon or maybe in a few years, from KCC over to Western, I want to introduce you to what I have coined your transfer team. So I'm Jennifer Clote, rhymes with float if that's helpful. I'm the manager of recruitment and outreach at WMU, which just means that I am your friendly admissions guide. So I'm here to help you through that process. As far as admissions into the Department of Social Work. And we'll talk about that process a little bit more in a little bit. And then we have Jill Hamilton. Jill, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jill Hamilton, and I am an academic advisor in the College of Health and Human Services and work with students in the social work undergrad program and helping them with course registration, program planning, and so once they would transfer to Western, would start as far as with that process of once their transfer credits are evaluated to see how it fits in and helping them move forward to complete the program.
Okay, thanks, Jill. Dr. Reeser?
Yes, hi, I'm Dr. Linda Reeser, and I am the BSW program coordinator. And I am very happy to welcome you to take a look at social work as a vibrant option I love social work. I've never regretted, and I've been in the field for quite some time. Served in different capacities in criminal justice system and substance abuse, in social planning and community organizations. So I've done macro social work and micro social work. And I think that we'll say a little bit more about jobs later on, but the field is extremely versatile, and there are many different opportunities for you to be involved at various levels of practice, as well as working at the micro level, the macro level, in traditional and non-traditional kinds of settings. So I'm happy to talk with you about the program in social work, and that's what we're going to be doing on this video that we're doing right now.
Thanks, Dr. Reeser. And then, of course, an important part of your transfer team will be whoever your KCC advisor is. So representing our KCC team today is Dr. Matthews. Will you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Dr. Sheila Matthews. I am the Human Service Program Coordinator and Professor at KCC. We do have an advisor at KCC, Michael Houston, if you're working with an advisor. As far as my experience, I have been at KCC in February to be 40 years. For the first 7 years, I worked as a counselor at the college. And then the other 37 years I've been with the Human Service Program. As far as my experience, I'm not a social worker, but I have worked with social workers throughout my clinical experience because for over 35 years, I've worked as a counselor or psychotherapist because I have a master's in counseling. My doctorate is in counseling psych. I've worked in private practice. I had my own practice for a while, and I've also worked in group practices, working with individuals, couples, and families, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And it finally got to a point where I had to make a decision to either continue doing both, which I was doing for a long time, working as an educator and a therapist, and finally had to decide. I was getting to the point where I had to make a commitment to either stay in education or go in, continue working as a clinical therapist. And I decided to let go of the clinical therapy and just focus on trying to help students, because I felt that working in the education field would help them to do what I love to do. So I'm in the education field. The one thing that I love, which I think is contributes to what we are all doing, is in this field of social work or counseling or in the helping profession, is it's something that we can just continue to do for so many years. And that's, again, what I think is so wonderful in this helping profession. It's not something that you have to do for 5-10 years and decide to retire. It's such it's just so much into this profession. So I hope that what happens tonight will just inspire those students that are in the field or considering the field to just transfer from KCC and continue on into Western's bachelor's degree program, master's degree program, and even the doctorate degree program, because it is such just a valuable, inspiring, and there's such, what I want to say, just when you're talking about the area of gratitude, there's so much into it. So I hope this provides so much for you.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews. Okay. So since we are recording, we're going to skip over introductions, but we would love to meet you. So as you're watching this, please reach out to us and tell us more about you so we can connect. So I want to tell you a little bit about what makes social work unique. I think a lot of the questions we get about social work, there's a couple images that people have in their mind, but they don't know a lot about the profession, and there's some confusion about what makes us different or the same as other helping professions. And so I made this little chart because I'm a chart person and it helps me and to help kind of sort out some of the similarities and differences. So these psychology and sociology are two of the closest professions to ours and things that we share a lot with. So we all share a core of research on human behavior, human development. And so you'll see those across the board in all those classes, especially if you've sampled a little bit in each of these classes, you'll see similarities in those theories and in research studies, especially early on in the field. And with psychology, we share that both professions can do counseling, both can do direct service, and both have a professional licensing track. And both are projected to grow jobs over the next 10 years between 15 and 20%. So good job prospects for both. With sociology, we share the study of groups and social environments. And so social work is this really unique marriage of the study of an individual, their psyche, and also the environment that they live in. So we call this approach the person and environment approach, and we think that it really makes us unique. We're not just looking at an individual and their behavior, but also at how they're influenced by their environment. So for instance, if someone came in to see me because they were looking for work, we would talk about resume and interviews and things like that, but we also might talk about other things that are impacting their ability to get work. Maybe systemic racism or the local economy issues, maybe transportation or childcare. There's all these different things that play into that besides just the behavior of the individual. And so we're looking at this big picture. And the other thing about social work is that we're not just helping that person looking for work, but we're also advocating for changes in policy and in society that will prevent more people from having to come into my office to help them look for work. And so we're looking at both helping individuals and families and addressing systemic injustice. So that's a little bit something that makes us unique. We've kind of combined those two disciplines to make our own mark. Other things that are different about us, so psychology and sociology, what we call terminal degree, which kind of sounds morbid, but it just means that that's where you really need to be to practice either of those professions is in psychology and sociology, whereas in social work, you can actually get licensed at the bachelor's level, which is amazing. So you can work at the bachelor's level forever if you want. Or if you'd like to go on to get your master's, then you can do that as well. And you can do that within 1 year if you're eligible for an advanced standing program at Western, which is incredible. But you don't need a PhD to practice. And so that is really helpful in time and in money for those who are interested in pursuing that highest level. So psychology and sociology are also going to be more focused on research, and psychology uses what we call a pathology approach, looking at a medical model, determining what's wrong and how we can fix it. And in social work, we strive to use what we call the strengths model, which is looking at what assets and things that are working in an individual's life or in the community's life, and how we can build off of that to solve any struggles that they might be facing. So with social work, we also work on a number of levels: individuals, groups and families, and in communities, which you heard Dr. Harrison talk about, and we'll talk a little bit more in a minute about different types of jobs that might look like. So here's that spectrum. Dr. Reeser, do you want to talk a little bit about this spectrum? Dr. Reeser, you are
Dr. Reeser, I think you're muted.
Okay. So I mentioned this, and as did Jennifer Harrison, that we work at different levels. And in the Bachelor of Social Work program, it's considered to be generalist practice. And generalist practice means that we work with individuals, families, groups at the micro level, doing, say, psychoeducational groups with people who have substance abuse problems, or working with youth on empowerment skills at the meso level. Well, I'm kind of putting them together. Meso is families and groups, and micro individuals. Macro level is when we do practice with organizations or reaching out in communities, say through a neighborhood development organization or community organization, perhaps working in a larger system, like working for the government and working in Department of Health and Human Services in the government at the state level, and in other large systems, in building up organizations, in doing community organization work. So we work at all these different levels, and that's what generalist practice really means, is that you can work at these different levels, as well as you might work with different fields of service, whether it's working with persons who are elderly, with youth, or with adults. And that's what gives the generalist practitioner so much versatility of switching around to different kinds of work and different populations. And then as far as job options, this is a nice wheel that may be hard for you to read, but the source is right here so that you might be able to look at some of the finer details. But it's basically looking at the different fields of service, such as health, mental health, community, management, and some non-traditional type of work in social work, which would be places maybe you wouldn't think there would be a social worker, say working in a police department. That would be a good example of a non-traditional type of setting for social workers. And we do have in certain states where social workers are employed by the police department, and they go out on calls with the police to help to de-escalate crisis situations so they do not turn into potential violence, danger. And we have social workers working in hospitals that might be providing in-services for doctors so they can learn how to better inform patients about some very difficult issues that they're facing. So there, as you can see, the possibilities are really endless. Another area, family, children, and youth, working with something like the Boys and Girls Club, or working through the YW or YMCA in a domestic assault shelter or in a sexual assault program. And to learn more about what social work is considered for BSW students, you can go look under the Public Health Code for licensing of social workers and see they have all the tasks listed out for people who receive their BSW license. And also it breaks it down by what you can do when you're a master's level social worker. So it's very interesting. And you can see there are many areas where both MSWs and BSWs may be working in. Advocacy on behalf of groups or communities would be something that both MSW and BSW social workers may engage in. Child welfare case management, both degrees may work in this area, and on. So I recommend to you to take a look at this. One of the key areas where there is a difference is in psychotherapy, which is reserved for MSW social workers. But as I mentioned before, BSW social workers may be doing some psychoeducational counseling in the form of groups or working with individuals and families. So I'll end there.
Okay. Thanks, Dr. Reeser. So, Dr. Matthews, if you could speak a little bit about the education pathway and what it looks like to start out getting your human services degree and general courses at KCC, and then we'll pass it over to Advisor Jill Hamilton to talk about what the WMU side would look like.
Okay, as you begin your program at KCC, whether you talk with me or whether you go through the academic advisor, we now have the Pathways program set up. And as you look at that, it's set up so that you will follow a suggested semester program, so that you'll notice that we have it specifically set up with Western because of the articulation agreement, where there are general education courses, there are required human service core courses, and then there are elective courses. So you specifically want to look at that because one of the things is there are courses that are only offered during specific semesters, and there are courses that are there's a few courses that are prerequisites to other courses. So that's important. But there's also courses that are primarily theory classes, and then there are courses that are practicum courses, field experience courses. So again, there's general education courses that transfer, as you'll notice, such as our English, communication, math, science, sociology classes, and then there's the literature or arts classes. And then in the required human service courses, there's the Introduction to Human Service class that is in the required human service class. Then there are the field experience classes, the 183, which is a practicum, 185, 186, which is the internships. The 204 class is a report writing class in terms of learning how to do your writing classes, case notes and report writings. 220 is your communication skills class, which is your learning how to do work with clients. 225 is your culturally sensitive practice class. 251 is behavior modification. 260 is working with families. The two classes that are really important in transferring to Western is your 240, which is social welfare and basic concepts in social work, and 290 is social welfare. Those are two of the important classes in transferring to Western. The 240, which is again your basic concepts in social work, 290 social welfare. So I think those are the two classes that you really want to pay attention to in the pathways for transferring. But again, this is all set up in the articulation plan and the pathways. And when you get ready to set up your schedule, I really encourage you to talk with either myself or with Michael Houston, who is the academic advisor.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Matthews. Yeah, so that's right. The 240 is particularly important. The reason that I highlighted those in green is because those transferred to required courses at WMU School of Social Work. So all of these here count for credit at Western, but the 240 is the one that you need before you apply to the major. So you can take that course at Western, of course, but then you would need to wait another semester before you could apply to the major. So that's why that one is highlighted. And you do not have to take notes on all this or remember all this. We have all this in a nice articulation agreement on both of our websites, and we can get that link to you to make sure you have all of this information for all your advising sessions.
But can I also say they need to be aware of this because the 240 class is offered during the fall semester, which is your basic concepts in social work. The 290 is offered during the spring semester, which is your social welfare.
Okay, good. Yes, that's good to know. So it's important when you take them as well.
Yes.
Okay, Jill, do you want to speak to what it takes to kind of round that out at Western to get your BSW?
Sure. This takes a look as far as there are required social work courses, obviously part of the major, which Jennifer mentioned as far as the equivalence being from KCC, that some courses, including the one that will come in for the key one for applying to the program, you'll take. You can see the remaining, and then there are required supporting classes as part of the program as well too, and many of those are already, again, covered under that articulation. So it shows the remaining as far as microeconomics, our health literacy course requirement for baccalaureate writing, and typically as far as with covering under with the MTA coming in, 2 upper level general education courses as well. And then the core social work major courses. The first couple of those, the first 3 that are listed there, the 32, 33, and 35, are still part of our kind of our pre-social work, or before students have to be admitted to the program, and then after that component, students do have to be admitted to continue on to complete the program, including our 2 semesters of internship, 4100 and 4110. A total of 400 hours of field placement within the BSW program as well. So students culminate their bachelor's program with that hands-on field component as well too.
Okay, thanks. And this list, I set it up as if you were going to complete your full associate's degree, but we could work with you if you don't finish the full associate's degree before you transfer. We can certainly work with you on that as well.
I just, if I can add, Jill and Jennifer, that I want to kind of put a plug in for the importance of those internship 2-semester courses. So another unique aspect of social work is the field education as our signature pedagogy within our educational field of social work. And so when you're doing those internship courses, in addition to the internships that you would have and the practicum that you would have at Kellogg Community College, you'll also have a 400-hour field placement that is placed with a social worker at the BSW or MSW level somewhere in the community. So all of the organizations that Dr. Reeser was discussing where social work is practiced, schools and hospitals and child welfare settings and policy settings and community organizations and the like, there are social workers in all of those. And so each of our social work BSW students is placed with one of those organizations through a process of a selection process where you get to determine your top choices, interview for potential internships, and then eventually are offered and confirmed with one of those site placements, so that you'll be doing 400 hours of field placement. And one of the things that assures, which is really different than most other human services related undergraduate degrees, is the last day of your internship is really the day before you are ready to enter practice as a BSW social worker. And since that's required for BSW programs throughout the nation by our accreditation body, that really gives you a leg up in terms of the skills to practice at the bachelor's level, and to be able to go into practice immediately, which is part of the rationale for why in the state of Michigan, as well as 47 other states, social workers can be licensed at both the bachelor's level as well as the master's level. So that field component is really critical. And we say that that's kind of the most direct expression of the skill base that you're learning in your BSW or your MSW program, is that field education component.
Absolutely. Okay, so how do we get there? So first you'll go to KCC, get your credits in. We're assuming that you're already there. So if you have questions about that, you can certainly reach out to the advisors at KCC. But assuming that you're already there and you're ready to transfer, you'll apply as a transfer student to WMU. It's an application, of course, and then they'll need your transcripts and you'll have a transfer credit evaluation. Then you'll meet with Jill to talk about your degree plan and work out any which of those things transferred and what they transferred as, either as just general credits or as a swap for something that's required. And then as long as you've already taken that 240 class, then you can apply for the social work major. So Social work is a pre-professional program, so just like you could be, pre-law or pre-med or pre-business, be pre-social work, and then you would apply to be a social work major and be admitted into the major by the department. We have two deadlines every year, October 1 and April 1, but we will review them at any time. So if you come in at a different time, then that's okay. You can send it our way. And the application has a series of essay questions that you'll answer about your interest in the profession, your personal values and ethics, approach to diversity, and things like that. And I can help answer questions that you have about that part of the application, as those will come through me. And then I'll pass them along to our admissions committee for review. And then hopefully you're admitted, yay! And then we'll send you back to Jill to finalize that program plan so that we can get you through the social work program, graduate, and make you a social worker. So we did talk.
Jennifer, I'm just going to jump in really quick. Sorry, one thing, just for on the admissions side of thing, when you apply to Western, just, obviously following the plans, but we always talk about the application to the university as a whole, thinking about that anywhere from 6 to 9 months ahead of time because of the process for applying to WMU and getting that part, your transcripts reviewed and get admitted, and then being able to work with myself as the advisor too, that for the example of like starting, wanting to transfer for fall semester, at WMU will start registering in March, so almost 6 months out before starting that semester time frame. And so we want students to apply prior to that so that they are ready to transfer seamlessly too. So kind of thinking about that admissions process 6 to 9 months before you want to transfer to WMU. So kind of start that admissions application process early.
Great, that's a very helpful tip. Timing is important.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, so Dr. Harrison talked about this internships experience being key to what we do. The good news is we are going to set you up so you don't have to go and find this on your own. In fact, we ask you not to, because there's some legal paperwork involved, but we will help connect you. You'll get to put in your preferences. We have over 600 agencies that we're connected with, which is way more than the number of students we have. So lots of options there. And just a heads up, that's important to plan for. Those are typically unpaid and they typically require daytime availability. So if you're juggling other work or caregiving responsibilities, that's just something you'll want to think about in advance as you plan out what that might look like for you. Okay, so we're going to pass it over to Dustin. He's both a KCC and a WMU alum, and he stuck around for more. So pass it over to him. He can share a little bit about his experiences. This, by the way, is a photo of him getting a scholarship from the National Association of Social Workers. So just, no big deal. It's fine.
Yeah. My name is Dustin Corwin. Was a student at KCC. I graduated, I think, in 2018 with an Associates of Arts. I didn't know about the human service avenue, but I also only went to the Grawl Center, so I tried to make sure that I think there was only 4 degrees that you could, at the time, only get from the Grawl Center, which is an extension of KCC and Coldwater. So that's the path that I went to get to Western. I applied and transferred to Western and got into the social work program. I guess going over the parts that snagged me at, some of the programming was different for the online stuff. At KCC, when somebody asked you for your homework, you would turn it into maybe an instructor or whatever. But at Western, some of the instructors only wanted it turned in online, even if it was an in-person class. And that really got to me at first. Just little stuff like that. For the other than that, KCC and Western are a lot alike, and most of the class sizes are similar. They might be a little bit bigger at Western at times, and some of the general education classes might be a lot bigger, but it's not that bad. So I don't really know.
Dustin, can you talk about what some of your decision was to go on to your MSW and kind of the pathway that you followed with that, and then because you're graduating in spring semester, so what have you thought about as first positions, or where's your practice interest in social work?
Okay. Yeah. So I am a MSW student. I'm going for the PPNA track, which is the macro or on a larger scale. I'd like to, after I graduate in April, I'd like to go on and work for, either a nonprofit. I would like in the state to work with the state. So we'll see how that goes if I can do that. But yeah, just try to do that. I guess the social work that I would like to practice in it may not always be viewed as social work or something at this time because it's a larger, or maybe a look from a different perspective than the interpersonal one. So I guess I'm excited to go work in that type of environment and help from that angle. So I guess it's just not a traditional angle that people think of when they think of social work.
Yeah, and I just want to take an opportunity to brag on Dustin a little bit, because I think he is downplaying his accomplishments and what he's been able to do both in the social work program and in his direct practice. So I have the privilege of being able to work alongside Dustin and Dr. Don Cooney on his macro practice or policy planning and administration, that PPNA concentration focus of his internship this year. And so Dustin has really, he's been able to do a number of things in terms of working with individuals in the community who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated to help to reclaim the full rights of citizenship, including voting rights and rights to employment, and changing the policies that limit the full citizenry of individuals with previous involvement in the criminal justice system. He's also been really active in looking at grants and other programming that helps impact specifically rural communities. We know that there's a lot of disparities in our rural communities throughout Southwest Michigan and beyond in terms of access to care, access to healthcare, access to education, and access to some of the technology resources. So Dustin has been very activist in terms of looking at some of those broader macro issues of how do we kind of like change the way we offer programs for entire communities. So we were so pleased that Dustin is a graduate of Kellogg Community College and also now a graduate of Western Michigan University and about to be a second-time alum, was awarded one of the statewide National Association of Social Work scholarships for BSW individuals. And I think kind of demonstrates that with that level of grit and that level of perseverance, that launching yourself to the highest level of the social work career is possible for all of us. And it's something that if you have the passion for the field, it's just something that we're so pleased that students of Dustin's caliber choose Western Michigan University as the place to get their bachelor's and master's degree of social work.
Can I speak toward that? I appreciate you sharing that information, Jennifer, and I think students need to hear what he's doing, because I hear students say they want to go into the field of social work. However, they don't want to do direct service, and to hear the plethora of services that he's involved in and what he's providing. I think students need to be aware of that, because even though he's providing direct services, he's doing it somewhat in an indirect way. And students need to know that, because like I said, I hear students say, I want to go into the field of social work, but when I think of what social workers are doing, when they hear about the typical work that some social workers are doing, they're saying, I don't really want to be a social worker, but I want to go into the field of social work because I want to do something very meaningful. And he's doing something so meaningful. So it'd be nice if we could hear more about what he's doing. Great job, Dustin.
Yeah, I think when I came to Western, I had no idea, like you were saying, I was one of those students that had no idea what social work entailed or anything like that. All I knew was I wanted to work with people. So, and as time went on, I started understanding that there's a world of possibilities, and there's just so many people are needed in this field. I have some issues, that might prevent me from careers in other fields, but in this field, it's a lot less, a lot less of an issue. Just people are more caring, understanding, and there's just, there's a lot of work available.
Great. Great. Well, thank you for sharing your journey with us so far, Dustin. We hope you keep us updated about all the great things that you go on to do post-graduation. So, in summary, Dustin's great. Be like Dustin. Go to KCC and then WMU. Yay. All right. So Dr. Reeser is going to share a little bit about what you can do to get involved once you're here at Western.
Dr. Reeser, I think you're muted.
Sorry, I wanted to eliminate background noise, so I put myself on mute. But anyway, we have another organization that came back. We used to have it, so I'd add that to this grouping here. But one of the organizations we have is called Eta Eta Sigma, and it's our social work undergraduate organization for BSW students, and also for students who have an interest in going into social work. So we started meeting in the fall semester, and we've been meeting like every other Wednesday at 3, but that time may change this semester. We haven't met yet. That organization has been in existence for a long time, and it is an organization that does some mentoring of students because we have both students just entering the program and ones who are seniors, so we can talk about what goes on in the field placement and even for students interested how to apply for the program. Lately, we've been bringing in speakers who work in different fields of practice in social work. So that's something that the students really wanted. So we have people come in school social work and mental health to talk to students about what they do and what the qualifications are. Volunteer work, yes, that's something else that Eta Eta has been known for, as well as fundraising that supports the organization but is also given to other nonprofit organizations in the community. So we'd love to have you be involved in that organization. Phi Alpha is a national social work organization that is recognized across the country, and it involves being in the top 35% of your class and completing a certain number of credit hours, and it's a lifetime membership. So, and it's recognized on your resume as signifying that you did well in the program, grade point wise. So that's an organization that you can join. I'll skip down to NASW Michigan, which is our national organization of social workers. And that organization does have a BSW representative on the executive board that is, well, it's been meeting virtually, but it's located in Lansing, Michigan, the state capital. And it has an MSW representative, as well as practitioners from all over the state of Michigan. And I've served on that board, and Jennifer Klopp is a member right now. She's serving on the board. We've had other faculty serving on the board. You could be involved in terms of running as the BSW student, or networking with other practitioners and learning what issues our organization is supporting. They hire lobbyists, and so if you're interested in political social work, they have a lobby day every year where we have distinguished speakers and workshops on how to advocate for different social issues. So that's another opportunity. We recently developed an organization that used to be here at Western called the Social Welfare Action Alliance. And that is an organization that's definitely about social work activism, involvement in the macro part of social work, and being political and thinking of ways in which the environment needs to be changed and working on various mechanisms for bringing about those changes. And so that's another organization that organization meets on Wednesdays at noon right now. So you can see there are many opportunities for you to get involved at the school level and in organizations that exist at the national level. So you may also be involved as a member of a School of Social Work committee, because all of our committees welcome students and would like to have a BSW student, MSW student representative. So this way you can get to interact with faculty on a more intimate level in terms of the curriculum of the school and in terms of the services that we provide for students and scholarships and many other aspects. So as you can see, there are a multitude of ways to be involved in the School of Social Work.
Thanks. Okay, so another perk of being admitted to the School of Social Work as a social work major is being eligible for departmental scholarships. So they're not huge, but every dollar counts when you don't have to pay it back 10 years from now with interest. So those range from $500 to $2,000, and you can apply each year you're a student. The deadline for that is February 15th each year, and it's just one application for all of our scholarships. In the past couple years, almost every BSW student who's applied for a scholarship has gotten one. So it is definitely worth your time to do. And you'll get a unique application link emailed to you after you, once you're a student here, that'll be pre-filled, your name and your contact info. And then award notifications go out at the end of April or early May, and those are for the following fall, that those would be dispersed to you. Okay, so we are so glad that you could stick with us and learn more about our programs. We would love to hear about your questions. And you can reach out to us. Here's contact email information. You can also schedule an appointment with me. I will write that link here for you. It's an automatic calendar thing, so you can just schedule with me at calendly.com/WMU_SWRK and set up an individual appointment with me or give me a call. That's my office number. We're all working from home through COVID, and so it is forwarded to my cell phone. So you might get a return call from a number that you don't know. So that's me. I won't be offended if you don't pick up and you want to call me back. And emails for Dr. Reeser and Jill are there as well. And Jill also has a calendar that you can schedule with online to set up an advising appointment. So keep in touch with us. We're happy to answer whatever questions you have about the process. We're here to help you along and make the right decision for you as you embark on your hopefully social work career. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Great. Thanks so much for your interest, and please feel free to get a hold of any one of us if we can answer follow-up questions or talk to you about the social work program or social work career paths.
If you're a KCC student, please get in touch with me, contact me, or contact Michael Houston so that we can help you to get prepared to apply to transfer immediately.
So we'll talk to you soon.